Now, so tell us your story. What happened when Jimmy Lee Jackson was brought into Good Samaritan Hospital?
I was 11 to 7 supervisor at the Good Samaritan Hospital in Selma, Alabama. And I had gotten to work and gotten a report from the 3 to 11 nurse. And shortly after, a little after 12, I'm going to say 12, 10, or 15, 11, I'm sorry. We got a call that it had been a riot in Marion, and then that was a young man that was shot, and the state trooper had gone in the cafe. That's all they said, and we were getting ready for it. So I knew, that's my baby's phone. Okay. Anyway, I knew so we got ourselves together, and the operating room was on the second floor. We were on the first floor because that's where the emergency room was. So a little after 11, I'd say 11:20 or so, in comes the car. And I was sharing with everybody that night I thought Mr. Hampley, the undertaker from here in Marion, had brought him in. I really did for years. I just knew he came in. Mr. Just as nice as he can be, he's dead now. Albert Turner Sr. He was my husband, Dean of Pledges, Alabama A&M University. They were close. And at the time, I saw Mr. Turner, but I know he was going to do and be there. I didn't have no idea now that he drove the car to bring Jimmy Lee right then. We were just trying to do what we could. And he was balled in a little knot, we took stretch out to get him on. And he was hurting so bad, and he was and then they put him in the second. We had like 3, 4 of the things in the emergency room where you just pull a curtain, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we put him in the second one. Never will forget it. And pulled him and got him on the table and got him on the stretcher that was in the emergency room little bed. And he was hurting so bad. He was and blood was on his shirt. He had on the shirt. And there was a hole in the left side of the shirt. And they told me, he said, I got shot. State trooper shot me. So I went in to see about my mama and granddaddy in Marion. They were at a mass meeting. And he went in and he said, and he kept telling me how his head was hurting right back. I said, what? He said, yeah, and evidently they hit it. Yeah, I'm not sure, but he had to because he had a laceration about 2 inches long. That's on that nurse's note. 2 inches, and it was bleeding profusely and all of this. And when I pulled up his shirt, there was a mass of gut. Now I'm gonna say intestines because that's what a nurse would say, but it was hanging out over that hole. I don't know, and because we know how intestines, it ran out, and it was a mass the size of a large grapefruit, and it was bloody like. And it was on, and he was and couldn't stand to touch it. So I got some sterile saline water and poured it on it. This sterile salt water that we had, and poured it on it. Of course, he was wet, and and all that. And he flinched because it was cold, but and cleaned it best I could and put some sterile gauze, even though it couldn't have been sterile. But all the dirt and what I understand how they drug him and all that. And we I called Dr. Dinkins, and he was the only little black, well, we had 2, he and Dr. Maddox, Dr. Dinkins came right on to see me. It wasn't nowhere from the hospital, and he came, and when he came in, I'd already gotten his bowel signs and all of that, and Dr. Dinkins asked him what happened. He just couldn't be still. Though he was just
he could still talk.
He talked the whole time, but he was just in so much pain. He was just, and I was so encouraged, and I always were, and still is with that, for encouraging people to live and do, and he was just so sick. But finally, we calmed him down after the morphine, which I read is on the nurse's note, and some atropine given together. When I gave him that, he kind of calmed down. It eased him. And that was in there. We had to take him to x-ray. And we sutured, that means sewed the thing in his head. And we showed that laceration up so it wouldn't bleed anymore. It wasn't that deep, but it was deep enough to bleed a lot. And he had been, a whole hour or so with it. And we took him to the operating room, and they called the operating room nurses and all, and they came in. And Dr. Dinkin operated on Jimmy Lee. And of course, the left side to repair, clean it up, and all. Now, I cannot tell you whether the gut had a hole in it or not, but it was where it came out when he shot him and everything. And he slept and woke up, and we put him in a room. And before I left the next morning, we kept real good, checking on him. He was awake a little in and out. And all he remembered me. And we had even talked that night when he told me, but I had the impression that he said that he was home on furlough in the Army, but he just was telling the story, what he wanted and what he was here doing in Marion, and how he knew. And he had fought, and he was still, doing what he could because we needed to vote. We need all of that. It was just amazing. And I talked to, Lord, you know that, you can tell. And I talked to him, and he talked to me, and all. And that's when I learned about her mother. He told me he had a 4-year-old baby, and I shared with her a few minutes ago. I thought that he was on furlough, and maybe he told me he was out for good, but if he did, it was me. And he said, I said, oh, goodness. I said, that's so good. I said, I got a 4-year-old daughter, which is the oldest one that lives in Maryland. I said, now, I want you to finish and get out and marry that young lady that has that baby and take care of her. I said, I mean it. He said, yes, ma'am. He did. He said, yes, ma'am. He said, she's 4 now. We compared her with mine. And that was on a Thursday night. Friday morning, which would be tomorrow, which would be 56 years, I gave a report, and we went home. Now, I didn't see any officers or any police or anybody that night, just the ones that brought him in and all, because I guess they were down here in Marion with him. So I knew it was supposed to have been, from them having a mass meeting, and he went in to take care of Mama and Granddaddy. I got a chance to talk to his mother over the phone, and Mr. Cage, I met him when I went to the funeral of Jimmy Lee. He lived, but every night I'd see him, but before I'd go, he stayed in so much pain. They would have given him some, I didn't wake him up. But I made my rounds all night and every day. And whenever I could have a chance, I'd just go in and talk to him, just like I'm talking to you all, and encourage him. But he always said, no. He said, they really don't want me to live. And I said, oh, you're going to be all right. All of that. But you're going to be. And I really prayed and hoped. He said, no. And he shared some little things about what he was doing here, trying to get him to vote and what was what. I said, but you're going to be all right, Jimmy Lee. He was just so sweet. And I always talked about the baby a lot, and all of that. And he told me Mom and Granddad had been up to see him. And see, the weekend came because that was Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. And Monday, he was doing pretty good, like feeling much better. That was Monday night when I went back to see Sunday, Monday night, and Tuesday night. He seemed to be in that, but he was starting to get weaker. And of course, we didn't have to dress his, because the living said we didn't have to dress his wound or anything, because it wasn't draining for us or anything. But he shared, when he wake up, I'd go back up in there at night to see him and talk to him a minute, as long as I had, and all, and he was just so sweet. Told me about the service and told me all about it, Mom and Granddad and everybody. And he just kept getting weaker. And the next weekend, see, I'm off on the weekend. I was off every Saturday and Sunday and come back on Sunday night. Friday night, Saturday night, and come back on Sunday. That was my job. And when I came back, that next week, he was just, not feeling good. And he told me he still was aching and hurting. Now, Dr. Dinkins, one of the best black doctors, and I've been through my years of nursing and all of them. But he had asked them not to operate on Jimmy again. He really had. And right to this day, I can't say I'm not the Lord, he knows. But I knew that Jimmy needed, he wasn't getting no better, but he was infected. And as of now, we don't know whether medication was sprinkled. You never know. We won't ever know. But God does. But he wasn't getting any better. He was just going down, and he knew it. He knew it, and all of us knew it, and he was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So in 8 days, he passed away. Now, I wasn't there the morning they took him to surgery. And that's when this child was that I shared that bed. She was there. She took him to surgery. She went down with him, and he shared some things with her. And she do want to talk to you all about it. And she told me later on about it. And I said, and she said, yeah, but he told me I won't see you. I said, but you all continue. I want you to keep on doing it. I want you to vote. I want you to go vote. And here I am, 84 years old. He can tell you, my baby, I never miss vote. From wheelchair or what, now I do absentee. I don't miss it. No way in the world. And I do it in honor of your granddad. I really do. I don't miss vote. And I've been without a leg for 20 years from an accident. But I don't miss vote.
Anything you'd like to say to our audience?
Yep, I would like to tell everybody to please continue. And if we don't continue and do what the Lord wants us to do and get our hearts right, you have to love it. And that I saw in Jimmy Lee. That whole little time in the week he was there and all of that. You got to do it. You got to love whether they love you or not. You got to be good whether they be good to you or not. And you cannot hate. If you hate, you're not going to see the Lord again. You're not going to die and go to heaven. And you ain't going to see Jimmy Lee or nobody else that did do it. So I know that we got to vote. My people do. My mom did and all of that. She was worried because she see me on TV and all that. But I'm still here. And I do not miss voting. And I've been honored in Washington and Maryland at my daughter's church and all of that for Black History. And that was one of the things that got me, and I want to share that. Of all the times, I went to Jimmy Lee's funeral in Selma. See, I knew he had 2 funerals. I knew everything. And we went, and church was packed. It was at Brown Chapel. Dr. King wasn't here to do that one. The day Dr. Lloyd Lewis Anderson from Tabernacle done that funeral, and he done her job. And I talked to grandmother, and great-grandmother. I talked to she. And I also got Mr. Cajun, Mr. Dad was there and all. I was on the corner and I passed and stopped and talked to him before going around to see Dad. I didn't really want to see him.
The second funeral was here
in Marion. I didn't come. Now, Dr. King officiated over that one. But I had known Dr. King before that. I knew Dr. King when I was a student at Alabama State University. When the Mrs. Parks didn't get up from the seat. I was a student there, and from there to Grady Hospital, finest school in the world for nursing. I met the King family. I went to Ebenezer, so I knew. And Dr. King's brother, the only one he had, AD, was our Vesper speaker every week. So it was a family thing. I knew he, and on one of the films that Richard, no, I can't think of who doing it, but right now. But there's a film who. But anyway, I'm featured talking to Dr. King when I real little and all that. With the nurses. I led the nurses with voting. It's a whole film of it. I can't remember the name. I do have it at home. But anyway, I've just done that, and I knew, and I was the oldest of 12 children and all, and I knew just the goodness of the Lord.
Today, now I'm going to stop at this point.
Okay.